My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you tonight. We will make America great again.
President Trump is tweeting again. He has put out a message on his Truth Social. He says, and I quote, "A massive armada is heading to Iran. It's moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. It is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln than we sent to Venezuela. Like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. And then in capitals, no nuclear weapons. One that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence. As I told Iran once before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make that happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." So that there from President Trump. He has issued a number of warnings to Iran in the past, but has been a little bit quiet over the last few days on that also.
Tension on the global stage are once again escalating as Russia has issued a stern warning to the United States over the growing situation involving Iraq. The message, delivered through a diplomatic and media channel, signals a dangerous shift in the balance of power and highlights how fragile the current geopolitical climate has become. According to Russian officials, any direct military action or aggressive move by the United States of America against Iran will be seen as a serious destabilizing factor for the Middle East and beyond. Moscow emphasized that such action could trigger consequences far wider than the region itself, potentially drawing the multiple global powers into a confrontation that no side can truly control. Russian warning comes speculation over Washington's next step regarding Iran nuclear program, regional influence, and alleged military activity. The Kremlin has made it clear that Iran is not isolated on the world stage and that attempts to pressure or corner terror through force could backfire dramatically. Russian leaders stressed that diplomacy, not military escalation, remain the only viable path to preventing a wider conflict. From Moscow's perspective, the United States has continued to pursue a strategy of pressure, sanctions, and a military presence in the region, a strategy Russia argues has repeatedly failed to bring long-term stability. Russian analysts point to past intervention as evidence that unilateral action often lead to prolonged chaos rather than resolution. Meanwhile, the United States of America has maintained that its policies toward Iran are aimed at preventing nuclear proliferation and protecting its allies. United States of America officials insist that they are responding to what they describe as Iraq threat and regional activities. However, Russia strongly disputes the narrative, accusing Washington of using security concerns as justification for expanding its influence and military footprint. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of other global and regional players. China, European nations, Middle East states are closely watching, developing aware that any miscalculation could disrupt energy markets, global trade routes, and international security. Oil price, already sensitive to geopolitical risk, could surge sharply if tension escalates into open conflict. Experts warn that its dangerous, strong language, public warning, and military signaling increase the risk of misunderstanding or accidental confrontation. In a world already dealing with economic uncertainty, regional war, and shifting alliances, a direct clash involving the United States, Iraq, and Russia could mark a turning point in global politics.
In a last-ditch effort to take as many enemies with him as possible, he orders a massive launch of Russia's nuclear arsenal, targeting the West. As the silos open, hundreds or thousands of intercontinental ballistic missiles armed with nuclear warheads streak away at speeds of 15,000 miles per hour. But where are they headed? Thankfully, this hypothetical remains very, very unlikely. Unfortunately, it's also not entirely impossible. Russia has the world's largest nuclear stockpile, with nearly 6,000 weapons and roughly 1,600 actively deployed warheads. The question of where these might strike if fired is one that experts and policymakers have worried about since the days of the Cold War. Now, with nuclear threats once rising again, it's worth looking at how such a doomsday scenario might play out. In this video, we'll take a look at the places Russia might target with a nuclear barrage, starting in the United States. Some of the first US targets for a Russian nuclear strike are the major centers of power you would expect. The Pentagon is among the most important of these, as it acts as the headquarters for the US Department of Defense. If Russia were able to damage or destroy the Pentagon, it would be an enormous blow to the command structure of the US military. It would likely not cripple the US armed forces, but would cause a major disruption and make it far more difficult for the US to organize a response. Because of the size of the nuclear blast and its fallout, a strike on the Pentagon would also likely destroy much of Washington, D.C. Some 713,000 people live in D.C., while more than 6.3 million live in the greater D.C. area. Estimates for a nuclear strike on the Pentagon indicate that close to 500,000 people could be killed instantly, with many more falling sick from radioactive fallout afterwards. The initial blast would vaporize the Pentagon itself and anything else within a half-mile radius. Damage from the strike would radiate outwards some 4 miles from the epicenter, including the area containing the US Capitol building, White House, and Supreme Court. While the nuclear fireball and the enormous shockwave following it would be deadly on their own, it is the potential for widespread radiation which would create the biggest hazard. Radiation anywhere near the blast would be intense enough to cause third-degree burns, while also causing many harmful mutations in victims' DNA, leading to cellular degeneration and cancer. Even if people in the larger blast radius managed to survive the explosion, there's a good chance they would die from the huge amount of radiation exposure. The White House is roughly 2.17 miles from the Pentagon, putting it well within the damage zone of a nuclear blast. If the president were there, they would likely be killed by the force of the shockwave, even if the White House and Capitol were not targeted independently. Thousands of US officials and workers would certainly be killed, sending the government into crisis.
Russia has called for renewed international talks and a return to multilateral agreements, urging all sides to step back for the break. The Kremlin argued that dialogue through international framework is the only way to ensure security without triggering catastrophic consequences. As of now, the situation remains flawed. Diplomatic channels are active, but trust between the major powers appear increasingly fragile. What happens next will depend on the decision made behind closed doors in Washington, Moscow, and Tehran. Decisions that could shape the future of global stability for years to come. For the world, this is more than just another diplomatic dispute. It is a reminder of how quickly international tension can escalate and how closely connected today's conflict has become. The coming days and weeks will be critical as the international community watch to see whether diplomacy prevails or whether the world edges closer to yet another major confrontation.
Все время мы слышим, все время звучит: вы должны, вы обязаны, мы вас серьезно предупреждаем. Вы кто такие вообще?
please, if this is your first time watching this video, please you can hit up the subscribe button, like and share this video for more videos like this to come in the future. Please